Okay, solving by square roots. Okay, when is it an option? When there is no linear term, no bx or plane x. Remember, we're doing quadratics. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. To be able to solve it by square roots, you cannot have that middle term in there. If that middle term is there, solving by square roots is not an option. Okay, so if you have something that has a plain x in it, you cannot solve it by square roots. You would have to use one of the other methods out of that. Okay, but all of them that you'll see today are solvable by square roots. We'll start with the easiest of the easy. X squared is equal to 25. Okay, this is an easy one because you don't have the x term and you've got something squared equal to 25. Okay, what's the opposite of squaring something? Take the square root, right? What's the square root of 25?
5.
Just 5?
I don't know. 5 times 5.
5 times 5 is 25, but what's negative 5 times negative 5?
Positive 5.
It's also positive 25. So if I take the square root of both sides to solve this, I've got to use plus or minus in front. Okay, the positive and negative side, that'd be plus or minus 5. So we do get two answers there. We get x equals positive 5 and x equals negative 5. Instead of having to write two of them out, I'm going to let you write it plus or minus with the number after it. That's pretty easy there. Okay. Excuse me. Notice that equation was not equal to what specific number that everything we've done up to this point had to be equal to. 0. It wasn't equal to 0. Okay. To solve by square roots, you don't want it equal to 0. You want the squared part by itself and a number on the other side. Okay. This is probably more of I think this is one of the easier ways of solving a quadratic. But like I said, it doesn't always work, so it's not something you can do all the time. Another good one. X squared is equal to 144. Just 12? Okay, so to solve it, we take the square root of both sides, right? Plus or minus on the side that's got the number. And then square root of 144 is 12. Put the plus or minus in front of it. Yeah. Well, let's look at this one. Notice example A and B, they were all perfect squares. 25 and 144. But here we have x squared is equal to 12. Okay. Is x squared by itself? Yeah. So I can take the square root to get rid of the squared on the x squared, right? And then take square root of 12. But 12 is not a perfect square. How did we get the exact answer for that? The tree thing, yeah. That's coming back. 6 times 2. No. No. I don't see a fraction at all. I see 2 square root of 3.
Oh, okay.
We got a pair of 2s. That's the 2 that's on the outside. This 3 did not have a buddy, so he stayed on the inside. So it's 2 radical 3. Plus or minus in front of that. So that doesn't make it that much more complicated. It's still something that's simplifying the square root, something we've been doing. We used that some in quadratic formula, not as much as we did in section 11.2, but that was the whole introduction to that. Let's look at this one that kind of throws a little bit more into it, but not much. It's not a real heavy problem to lift up here. What's wrong with this one compared to the first 3 that we've done? Got to get rid of the 4 so that what's by itself? The x squared. So we're trying to get that x squared by itself. So subtracting 4 is the right move. You get 32. And then the next step would be to undo the squaring of x, which would take us to using what? Square root, right? Plus or minus the square root of 32. So we're breaking down 32 with the tree. 8 and 4, 4 and 2, 2 and 2, and then this 4 becomes 2 and 2. So there's 2 pairs of 2s. So what does that work out to be? 2 times 2, square root of 2. So we have one representative from each pair of 2's on the outside, and this 2 that's right here that doesn't have a buddy, that's that 2 that's still on the inside. So when we simplify that, plus or minus 4. So we break down that number that's inside of the square root, just like we did before, looking for pairs. We had 5x squared is equal to 110. Why do I divide by 5? That's right. Because they're multiplying, and we're trying to get what by itself again. All right. It's 110 divided by 5. 22 nickels and $1.10. Then we take what next? Square root both sides. Plus or minus and side with a number. Good. And 22 breaks down to 11 times 2. Then does 11 break down any further? No. So what do I put in the square root? Which is? Yeah. Since nothing had a pair, nothing's going to come out. So I'm going to come back with the same thing left in the square root, and you're done. But you've got to try to break down that number that's under the square root. That's not bad. It's really not that bad of a lesson. Pretty easy. Just throw a fraction in there just for fun. No, not in the answer or anything like that. They might be like this, but they won't be any in the answers. All right. So here we got 2/3 x squared is equal to 12. Divide by 2/3 is the same thing as doing what? Which is 3/2. So we can multiply by the reciprocal or divide by 2/3. It's the same thing. I'm going to write it as multiplying by the reciprocal. And I'm going to make that 12/1. These cancel. There's x squared. 2 goes into itself 1 time and into 12 6 times. So that's 18. Technically 18/1. But no need to write over 1. Next thing. Plus or minus on the number side. Don't forget that. And then we're going to break down 18 if we can. So we got a pair of 3s and 2 that doesn't. And some of you are probably saying, well, I'll just wait and put that plus or minus at the very end. Don't. Because everybody that ever says that forgets to put it. Or it messes them up when we get to a little bit more complicated problems tomorrow. Okay, we're going to do fairly simple ones today. Tomorrow, we're going to get a little bit more involved. And if you don't put that plus or minus when you take the square root, it could cause problems when we get to much, more involved problems like we'll get to tomorrow. Not that the problems tomorrow are extremely difficult, but that plus or minus has got to be there. So go ahead and get in the habit of doing it now at the right time. X squared minus 6 is equal to 22. Okay. Okay. X squared is 28. Good job. Okay, take the square root of both sides. Left side's x, that's the easy side. Break down 28. 4 and 7. I know 7's prime, so it's not going to break down. 2 square root of 7 plus or minus in the front of that. Just a couple more here, believe it or not. 3x squared minus 5 equals 22. This is as tough as they get today. Get a little tougher tomorrow, but not too much. This is as tough as they get. So, why are you adding 5? Okay. Maybe a better reason. That's what's going to happen. But why are we trying to? What are we trying to get by itself? Yeah, get that x squared by itself. That's what we want to get. Okay, so whether it divides evenly or not, today it's going to divide evenly. But I always want to try to get that x squared by itself. So here's 3x squared is equal to 27. And then next step is divide by that 3. And this one works out nice because you got x squared is equal to 9. Yeah, so plus or minus the square root of 9, which is plus or minus 3. That worked out to be a nice number. Doesn't always work out to be a nice number. After we finish. All right. 2x squared plus 7 is equal to 35. What do we do first on this? Yeah, move that 7, trying to get x squared by itself. So we're moving the stuff that doesn't have an x squared. 28. Divided by 2. X squared is equal to 14. I'm going to try to break down 14. That's 7 and 2, but neither of those break down any further. Yeah, square root of 14. Leave it that number. So it didn't simplify. Really, they don't get much more complicated than that today. It's not bad. It's a pretty easy day today. Good Monday. All right.